Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to do a walkthrough of the hotel development model. And if you're on YouTube, you can download this model on our website at adventuresinCRE.com. The link is in the description. And this video is really just going to be a walkthrough. We'll go through and really as an overview before I get into the details. This is really the way this was built was a combination of my condominium development model and my hotel Proforma, the basic model. And so I've really combined the two of them. And then there's a bunch of nuances and unique things within this model as well. But so as we're going through, you may see some familiarity, or it may look similar to those models as well. Part of the reason was, obviously when you're building models, you don't need to start from scratch. And the other reason is that if you're using those models, this will be very familiar to you as well. So let's just go through each tab, and I'll walk you through some of the inputs and how this thing works. All right, so moving on to the first tab, the summary tab. So at the top here, you have your general info and timing. You put your property name, address, city, state, the version of the model, rooms and keys, and gross square footage. And so below that, we have our timing. And here we have our analysis / development start date. It's really the start of the whole process. So you can put in your month and your year. And then below that, we have the development completion date, which comes in actually from our monthly cash flow. And if you recall, this is identical to our condominium development model. So as you're filling out the timing for each individual line item, it will actually come back here and update this completion date. And actually, let me close that up for now, and we'll open that back up when we get there. So below that, we have our operating start date, which you'll manually put in, and then we have our hold period from operating start date, and this gives you the ability to go 10 years out from the operating start date. And so the idea here is that this this model actually goes out 15 years. So, hopefully your development period is less than 5 years. It really should be. So if it's less than 5 years, then you'll have up to a 10-year hold. And actually, I don't think it's in here yet, but I'm going to put some conditional formatting in here that basically says if this exit date is past whatever can be contained within this monthly pro forma, then it'll show up red, or it'll give you a warning sign. So you have a 15-year hold period from the acquisition of land all the way to completion. So, and here you have the ability to do a 10-year hold from the operating start date. All right, so moving down, we have our exit date, and we have our total investment period. All right, so below that, we have our exit assumption. So exit cap rate, it'll pull in our sales price. Then we have our sale expenses. It'll pull back in this, the sale expenses from the monthly cash flow tab. And then we have our net unlevered proceeds from sale. And then let's actually move over. We'll talk about the financing piece at the end of this section, but let's actually just come right back up here to the top. So we have our returns. Very similar to my other models. This is very similar to the condo development model. We have our cash outflow, the profit, the IRR, and the multiple on invested capital. And we have our unlevered, levered, the limited partner, and the sponsor returns, which that gets pulled in from our waterfall tab. All right, so below that, we have our sources and uses. And then below that, we have our property specific metrics. So this should actually say total debt, not total costs. So let's update that. So our total debt, total equity. And then we have the cost per key. And then we have our exit information, both in aggregate and per key. All right, so now let's get into our financing. So the construction financing details, it's identical to the condominium development model. And so we have our loan to cost control. And this is, again, to avoid circular references. And I talk a lot about that on the website and in the condominium development model, so I won't spend time going through that here. But basically here we have our loan to cost control. And I can show you real quickly how we set this. So let's say we want our loan to cost to be 60%. So we'll come up to data, we'll come to solver, and we want to set C37 to a value of 0.6 by changing variable cell C36. And let's solve. And give it a second here. Okay. And so that's how you work that to dial in your loan to cost. And every time you change assumptions, on the budget and things like that, or the timing, this should probably change and go a little bit out. So you'll need to come back in here and just recalculate that. All right, then we can dial in our loan fee here. And so let's say we want a 1% of the debt. So we'll do 310,000 or 310,900. All right, and you'll see that sort of moved the loan to cost. You can come back in and dial in if you need to get that explicit and that granular at the point you are in your underwriting. So here we have our interest rate, which will say LIBOR plus whatever basis points. You can change this to whatever you want. In fact, what happens here is that this goes and gets plugged in here to our basis points above the curve. And then you'll come in and you can paste in your LIBOR curve, wherever you get your LIBOR curve from. You just come in and you paste that here, and then the model will update and it'll just give you that basis point spread. So you'll put in your basis point here, and then you'll add in the LIBOR curve over there. And so here we have our floor to ceiling. So, the max or min interest rate, regardless of what happens with the LIBOR curve. All right, and then refinancing. So you have to manually come in and pick your stabilization date. And so you'll do that. You'll figure out, basically it's up to you what your stabilization date is. And as you start your occupancy here, we'll go into this in a little bit more detail, but you have the ability to project a monthly occupancy rate during lease up. And then after that, you do annual, but we'll talk more about that actually probably very soon, maybe even right now. Well, let's finish this and then we'll go and we'll talk about how that all works. So the occupancy at stabilization. So as you update this, this will pull in basically using the index match function. So it'll find that date 5/31/2023. And it will find the occupancy rate. So we're saying stabilization is 60%, and so that's the date. All right, so value at refi. So it'll pull it in. It's based on the going in cap rate of the next 12 months of NOI and the monthly cash flow to get this value. And so then we take our loan to value and we get our loan amount. We have our interest rate, we have our loan fees, and then we have interest only periods, which you can put up to any amount in months that you want. And then our amortization years. And then we have the loan dispersal amount, interest only payments, amortization payments, and then the loan balance at repayment. And all this flows from and back to the monthly pro forma. All right, so moving on to our operating cash flow statement. So this is what it looks like when everything's neat and closed up. I'm going to actually open all of the hidden groups here. So I'm going to hit 2. I'm going to hit 2 here. And so as I said, you'll put in your operating start date, and then it'll flow here. And then you have the ability to dictate how the occupancy goes during the initial year of operations. And so that plays out into the first year here. And so you'll see that we have all that adding up into the total occupancy for rooms, and then we get our aggregated occupancy for the year. And so we'll come to the top here. And so here you have the ability to put your first year ADR. And actually, let me close this back up so we're right next to the B column here. So you put in your first year ADR. ADR growth is NA. Just make that black. And then from there, you have the ability to grow the ADR, and you can dictate your annual occupancy going forward. And I think that's really all the inputs in the header. So let's open this back up, and we'll get into our departmental revenue. So obviously the rooms, the revenue from the rooms is being dictated by what we're doing up here in the header. But for all of the other departmental revenues, what we do is we basically come here in our H column and we set our dollar per occupied room over the year. And then we come down below and we have two choices for growth methods. So one is static, where we just put in one growth rate and it just grows every year at that rate. And the other option, is custom, where we can independently dictate every year the growth. And so that is the same for all of the departmental revenues, for the undistributed expenses, and yeah, that's it for that. So all of that is the same, and so let's move on now. We have our departmental expenses, and we have a percent that's fixed and a percent that's variable, which changes with the occupancy of the hotel, and then we have a general inflation rate. And so you'll dial in your first year's anticipated expenses, and then it will grow based on that formula. All right, and so moving down, we have our management fee, which we're saying is 3% of gross revenue. And so basically you can just update that percent to whatever you want of gross revenue. And then below that, we have property taxes, insurance, and lease and rental expense, which here I'm just allowing you to put in manually each year. What I'm doing is really just growing this by 2%. So it's really just a simpler version of what we're doing up here. And then the final piece is we're doing a reserve for replacement, which you can grow independently every year. And that is everything for the operating cash flow tab. So let's close this back up. And now we'll move on to the budget. And the budget is virtually identical to the condo development model. So you can add any line items you want. So, for example, and what happens is, so let's just actually erase exteriors in the hard cost. You'll notice that this will automatically update as you add or remove items. And so we have our categories here. And blue, you can update and change whatever you want. These are the general categories that I've chosen for my budget. And so all of that comes through to our monthly cash flow tab. So again, with this tab, everything here is identical for the most part. There's some nuance, but everything is almost identical to our condo development model here as well. So again, we have all of our costs coming in from our budget, the line items, and what we budgeted. And so, here you have the ability to put in a certain start month and end month. So let's take our engineering consultants, for example. Let's just change them to 1 and 5. And you'll notice that this has been updated to months 1 through 5. And then we also have the ability to do a steady growth, which will slowly grow the amount you need to spend over the whole. Can do the bell curve, which is what we were on, which is just a bell going from, spending less money to the peak amount being spent in the middle of the period to back to the minimum at the end. And then our final idea is custom. And let's talk about custom. Actually, let's talk about custom now because we're here. So if you're doing custom and you click custom and things aren't matching, you'll see a red number here. And the reason being is that we need to, basically what's happening is you're getting, whenever this turns red, it's a conditional formatting that's saying the total is not equal to what's being budgeted for. So the reason being is that we're now pulling in numbers because we've selected custom, and this is the same for our condo development model. We need to come into the custom cash flow section, and let's open up soft costs here. And you'll notice that because we've selected custom in our monthly cash flow, it now appears here in our custom cash flow tab. And so you'll see, the way to notice it is you'll see these turn green, and you'll see the text actually appear here. So we need to make this equal 400,000, and we're going to do it. We're going to do a custom input, and you'll see here we have what's been allocated and what's remaining. So there's $250,000 left. So let's just put $250,000 here, and you'll notice that this turns green because our budget is now equal, and everything should be accounted for. So we'll come back into our monthly cash flow. That red has disappeared, and our budget's now equaling both. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make our legal budget custom, and you'll see it come in to the custom cash flow tab. So we'll say custom, and what's interesting though, and that'll have to come back and fix that this oh, look at that. So I guess I was testing this a couple days back. I actually had it correct. So there was $150,000 down here, and I guess I was checking when I was growing this. So our condo development model is 5 years, and this is 15 years. So I guess I did that as a test. Anyway, so you'll see that legal now appears, and if let's just erase that. If we erase that, you'll see that this is the green is turned off, and we'll have to come in somewhere and you know, put in money up until we have $150,000. All right, so that's how the custom cash flow tab works, and that's how and those are the options in row, or I'm sorry, in column K. And so now let's move on to column L, which is the last item I want to discuss in our construction cash flow section. So this is really just the ability to manipulate the bell curve. So you have the ability to do, let's zoom in here if we can. You have the ability to do a straight line, steep, moderately flat, flat, custom. Same as the condo development model. And let me just update this again also to 1 and 5, just so we can kind of see how this works. So straight line, see the money's coming out equally in every period. And then if we go steep, you'll see minimum amount, and you'll see a very steep sort of bell curve here in terms of the money coming out. And then if we go to flat, right, you'll see it's not quite a straight line, but it's very, very flat. All right, and that is everything for our construction cash flow. Now we're going to move down below here. So we have our draw schedule, which there's nothing to do here. Everything sort of comes in, or everything does come in from our summary tab and all the inputs we put there. We did talk about the LIBOR curve, that you put this in, and how the basis points coming in from the basis point spread is coming in from the summary tab. And there's nothing else to do there now. There's one quirky thing here, which I think is really cool. And I'm going to actually add this to my hotel model once I get around to making those monthly periods. But in this, you have the ability to alter your cash flows monthly based on seasonality. And so you'll notice here is that your pricing is ebbing and flowing with the seasons. And so you have the ability here to put your peak month, so whenever it's the most busiest time of year, and the steepness, again, sort of this bell curve concept of, you know, I think the higher the number you go, the steeper it gets. And so, or maybe I was wrong, I think it's the lower the number, the steeper it gets. Let me just double check here. Yeah, so sorry, the lower the number, the steeper it gets. And you'll notice the cash flow sort of ebbing and flowing here, going up and down based on seasonality. And so what's also happening is that the money should be growing in whatever inflation rate you've selected. So it's taking the numbers from our operating cash flow tab here, and it's spreading them out according to seasonality based on how you input that. So that is something that I think is really cool, and it's a unique thing to this model that's been built in. And then everything else is there's no more inputs here. So we have our refinance information. So we'll kind of scroll down. You'll see that we basically said refinance May 2023. So you'll see May 2023. So you'll see that happening. And then let's keep scrolling down, and we come down to our exit. And so that's that. And then below that, we just have our unlevered and levered cash flow. So down here, this is sort of the box that helps with our seasonality. So I'll be closing this whole section up when I produce the model, but you guys are just more than welcome to open up and look at it. Obviously, all our models are completely open and free to check out and look at. So feel free to do so. All right, and so that is everything with our monthly cash flow tab. And the annual is just a roll up. And again, it's less detailed. And I did another video on this, how to roll up annual cash flows. You'll notice if you look up into the formula tab that it's the identical formula. I built one formula and I copied and pasted. It's pulling in from our monthly cash flow tab. So custom cash flow we talked about. We don't need to talk about again. And then the waterfall model. This is identical to the one that is in our condo development model, I believe, or actually I think this is the one from the hotel model. So actually I can't recall. So what I'm going to do is just give you a high level order. It's very straightforward. IRR hurdle rates. You have 4 tiers really. You got your tier 1, tier 2, which tier 2 you're allowed to get into the promote, and you have your hurdle rate. It's very basic. You've seen, if you're new to our website, we have dozens of tutorials on waterfalls that you can go check out. But so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. And so that is everything. So I hope you enjoy the model. I know a lot of you have been requesting it, so I'm glad I can finally put it out there for you guys to check out and use. All right, thanks for watching.